This is Gary Zaleski, the host of The Gary Zaleski Show, the podcast for those who want to discover that human fuel called passion and build the life they have always wanted to live. I've been a professional speaker, author, and licensed minister for over 30 years, helping people professionally and personally who are tired of being stuck in the pursuit for something more. My wife calls me the human defibrillator because I jumpstart tired hearts and those minds that have checked out. I want you to become emotionally and financially profitable without sacrificing your faith or family. This show, it's all about the people I've connected with all over the world. People who have changed my life with their resiliency to never, ever quit. Shared moments that became lessons learned and laughter that took my breath away. Join me now in discovering the life you have always wanted to live. Hi, this is Gary Zaleski, and I'm going to welcome you to the Gary Zaleski Show. Hey, listen, I know I say this a lot, but fasten your seatbelts because I have a guest that's going to help you manage others, but more than that, manage yourself. Now, if your wife listening, you probably say, I wish my husband was here. And if your husband, you're probably thinking, I'm glad my wife's not here. I don't know what you're going to say. But Lois Banta, she answers the following question. This is the question. Ready? Are you fun to live with and work with? Lois, it is so great to have you as a friend, as a mentor, as somebody that has spoken to my life so many times. I am overwhelmed that I've got Lois Banta on the Gary Zaleski Show. How are you, dear?
I'm great, Gary. It's so great to see your face. I haven't seen you for a little while, and you're always fun and always endearing. So I'm excited. Let's take this show on the road.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we're going to dig in deep. No holding back. This is unplugged and at full tilt. And so Lois, get as honest and transparent as you want to be, because I know that my listeners, what happens when people listen to a podcast, they think, oh, I don't need that, or that's not me. But in reality, if they listen in, they're going to find out that how much of it is about them. Listen to you guys. You do practice management, which when I hear practice management, I go, oh, you're going to come in and change everything. And then after you leave, we're going to go back and do what we were doing before. Or, wow, here comes a new person going to tell us what to do and how to do it. That is not you. You are involved in dentistry, which is, by the way, the most bizarre thing in the world, a dental practice, I believe anyway. How in the world did somebody who was so wonderful as you, how did you get involved with dental practice management? How did that happen?
Well, I started working in a dental office myself, and I started communicating with patients differently and my coworkers differently. And then I designed some systems that were getting really great results. The funny thing is, it didn't occur to me that other people weren't doing the same thing and getting those same results. But my boss or buddies would come to him and say, could you send Lois into our office and teach our teams to get those same results? So I did it for free for a while, actually. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I bet there are more offices out there who aren't doing things the way that I know would make it easier for them. And so I started a company 25 years ago. And then recently, Gary sold that consulting company because that 12-month relationship wasn't filling my bucket. I don't want to spin my wheels. I don't want to waste someone's time, and I don't want them to waste their investment. So I sold the consulting company and designed a masterclass, a coaching program where they have me in for a day or two, and there's a couple of months of follow-up coaching calls, and that's the sweet spot. And working with the willing, and I have a few I'm working with right now, that the secret is if you don't learn how to communicate well and respect what each person brings to the table, no amount of coaching is going to help you. You have to want to drink from the well. I can bring the horse to water. What's the old saying? I can bring a horse to water, but I can't make him do the backstroke. I'm a seed planter and no holds barred. I am a very, very honest communicator. I try always to to help people see what their effect of their communication has on others. And then your question, are you easy to live and work with? Really boils down to if you had a bicycle wheel and you had a core center of that bicycle wheel, everything tracks back to communication, effective communication, and with good intentions and an intention for a positive outcome. If you remember nothing else, just learn how to talk to each other. If you don't do that, no amount of systems that I design or that you implement will work long term if you don't communicate well.
Oh gosh. It was nonstop. It was like this. And I think why is because you have been at this so long. You've seen so many different teams, you've seen so many different situations. But
Yeah.
you made a distinction about communicating, your communication and learning how to talk to each other. Is there a difference between communicating and talking?
Oh, that's a really excellent question. The difference between communicating and talking, if you talk so people hear you speak, you're not going to get a long term good result. But if you talk with the intention of listening, you're going to get a great result. And that will combine communicating and talking. It'll meet you in the middle. So if you communicate and talk with the intention of someone just hearing you, you're not going to get through. But if you talk and communicate with the intent on being a better listener, you're going to hear some hidden messages in there that have a desired outcome, and you'll be able to get further faster. Just open up your ears.
Wow. Of course, I'm an excellent listener. Every People might be listening and say, "Well, oh, she's in dentistry. That doesn't apply to me." You have got to be
Yeah.
kidding, man. What Lois presents, it will work in your marriage, it'll work in your office, it'll work wherever because these are key skills that we use.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right? It's transferable.
You're right. If the listeners don't listen to anything except this next sentence, they will have missed the point. So, my intention always is to never ask yes, no questions. Because if you ask a yes, no question in whatever dialogue you're having with another human being, you can end the topic immediately, or you can say, what questions can I answer for you about this? Or help me understand, or can you clarify, please, what you meant by X, Y, or Z? A lot of times, what people are saying isn't, and what you're hearing isn't the intended message. So, unless you clarify or you understand where that person is coming from, you are always going to be at risk for miscommunication. So, I always try to form my inquiries with, tell me more about that, or help me understand what you meant by that. Because if somebody can clarify what their intention was, you're going to save a whole mountains of conversation that might end up in miscommunication. I'm working with a practice right now that is miscommunicating all over the place because they're not listening to each other. They're just talking.
Yes, I get that. And again, as I apply this to my marriage, I'm trying to somehow picture myself saying to my wife, "No, tell me more. I want to hear more. No, explain it over and over again to me, please. I want to hear." But in reality, when you become a great listener, that can even affect the bottom line in a team situation because there's a lot of things that cost a lot of money, especially when it comes to that lack of communication. I mean, you've got to see that when you walk into an office and you see a team of people there, and you've got some of the people there that maybe have been there too long, and people that have not been there long enough. And it has nothing as their longevity, but you could almost tell them when you're even speaking, those who are hearing and those who are really listening and those who are not. How do you deal with non-listeners in an office? It could be the boss, it could be the manager, it could be anybody, or maybe even a class. Lois, help me. How do you deal with the non-listeners?
Well, one of the exercises that I do when I know I'm coming into a situation where people aren't getting along, right? There's a lack of respect or a lack of communication for whatever reason. I purposely sit them by a person they're not communicating well with. And so the exercise that I do is I make them go around the room and tell the person to their right what they appreciate about them or what they respect about them. Because what that does is it removes barriers to really listen to what that other person is saying. So even if they don't like them at all, there is something they appreciate about what they bring to the table that they can communicate. And what that does is it helps people get out of the way. Many times there are tears, and many times there's a lot of laughter. And you have to remove those barriers. And the only way to do that for me is to rip that band aid off and force them to talk to each other in that way, respectfully. And once you do that, the rest of the training can go very, very well. Or I will know immediately which ones are intent on not playing nice in the sandbox. But more importantly, so will the boss.
It's so funny that you said this because it's so dead on target. Because when I'm asked to go in and work with the team, they always want to give me all of their negative agendas. And here's all the issues we're dealing with. And here's all the problems we're having. And these are all the things that we need you to address, which I get. Of course, we want to do that. But the first thing I do is I said, well, tell me about all your great successes. What is your team doing that's amazing? What's the things that bring great joy to your lives? And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I find that when I work on that positive thing, we can excel quicker than if I'm trying to focus and deal with all the negative things. And by you
Mhm.
setting people right together, you're moving to this positive thing so that you're not spending hours worrying about their attitudes. But in fact, they probably get to know each other in a way they've never done before.
Absolutely. In dentistry, we have different departments. We have the administrative team, we have the assistants, we have the hygienists, we have the doctors. And so I purposely discover which ones need to sit next to each other. And then I add another exercise to that kind of midway through, or maybe in the first hour or two of our retreat, is tell me some things that you feel are working really, really well. And then I go to tell me what you're frustrated by, because maybe it's not identifying what's going wrong. Maybe it's about identifying what's causing the frustration so we could turn that frustration into a positive by peeling back the layers of, well, how did that happen? How did we get to that point? Why isn't the schedule full? Why aren't we collecting the money? Why aren't more patients saying yes to the best dentistry in the planet, right? So when we can peel back those layers, then we put it back together with, okay, here are your frustrations. These are the things that are working well. My goal is to turn that heavy frustrations column into positives. And we're going to work together to figure out how we can turn the frustration into a positive by saying, what could we do differently? Not what can we change? We're all about change. That you didn't hire us because things are going really, really great. But I can't bring change to the table first off. It almost has to be their idea of wanting to change. And it goes right back to that old saying, you can bring the horse to water, but if they don't get a clue that they want what I'm bringing to the table, nothing's going to work. It'll be a frustration for me as the coach as well.
Well, here's a big one. We're not talking dentistry, we're talking people. This is so transferable. What about rumors, okay, that go on in an office setting? And you know this, that sometimes people can be very cruel, man. I've even been in a situation where the owner slash dentist slash doctor is actually maybe speaking negative about a team member to another team member.
Hmm.
Or you
Right.
hear maybe a team member talking to one of their clients about the dentist or the doctor or the boss in a negative way. How critical is it to deal with some of these, how we talk about each other to another person?
Oh, it's crucial. In my lectures, there's always that question of, oh, with so and so, what if so and so is the problem? Or what do we do about gossip in the office? Well, it's kind of a brat answer, but it's very effective. So if there's someone's gossiping to, it takes three people, right? The triangle to gossip. There's the gossiper, there's the gossipy, and then there's the person that you're gossiping about. So if somebody's bringing that to me, and I have actually done this before, so I'm not going to tell you something I haven't already done. The gossiper comes to me to gossip about my coworker, then I'm going to reply with, it sounds like the two of you have something to discuss, and I'm going to take the gossiper to the gossipee and introduce this. You have something to talk about. It doesn't involve me, and I hope you can resolve it. That this is the brat part. What I say in the seminars is, it'll stop the gossip to you immediately, like dead in its tracks. Might not stop the gossip about you, but I don't want to participate in gossip. But the minute you engage in gossip, you become part of the gossip. So the brave thing to do is to put the two parties together and say, you two have something to talk about. If it's the dentist talking to the team member, the brave team member, if it's the employer, let's remove dentistry, the employer talking about another employee to an employee, then my respect of that boss is going to go way down. And the brave thing to do is to say to the boss, it sounds like you're talking to the wrong person. You really need to talk to your employee because I'm not part of this conversation. That's the brave thing to do. It's hard, but if it was hard, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would say, hey, you go talk to so and so. It's not easy. And our whole culture is built on gossip. Look at all the news channels and the
man.
entertainment channels and the magazines out there. It's all built on gossip because for some reason there's a feeding frenzy that happens on that. I'm so glad it's not happening to me kind of situation. But it's very, very damaging and very unhealthy. It's a very unhealthy environment to put any employer-employee relationship in.
Wow. Whew. Here's another one, Lois. Here we go. Ready? I've been in this situation where you walk in and there's one person, one of the team members that everybody else is dancing around. It seems like this team member really needs to go. And you can just tell that all the other team members are just trying to sidestep it, but the boss won't fire this person because he or she wants to be friends and wants to make sure that everybody stays friends. I understand it, but I don't know if it works. We're just one big family here in this office. We're a family. And I get that, but it might work until you might have to make one of the family members mad. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Right.
how do you work? You got that one person, people are doing the dance. How do you navigate something like that?
Well, so there has to be a realization. If you're keeping this person because they're good at their job, but they have a terrible attitude or they're bullying the other team members, so to speak, verbally, whatever, and you keep that team member employed there, there's implied permission to behave like that, right? So the brave thing to do is to pull that team member aside and you coach them up or you coach them out. So this is what's happening in the practice. This is the behavior that we're seeing, and this is what needs to change in the next 24 hours or 2 days or 3 weeks, or we can't have you work in this practice. What questions can I answer for you about that?
Wow.
So you have to bring it to the attention. I just had that happen with a client of mine last month where she purchased the practice. She inherited this team member. And I came to the practice, I interviewed each team member and I shared with her, there's one person on your team that's not playing well in the sandbox and is to the detriment of your practice long term. But in the confidential conversations, I didn't reveal the name of the person, but she knew who I was talking about. So now fast forward, it's 3 months later, we're having coaching calls. Now she's telling me they're getting ready to take this team trip. This person did 2 egregious things in the practice, left a child by themselves in the treatment room, and was disrespectful to another coworker two times in one day. And it's not the first time it happened. My first question to the employer is, how's that working out for you? And she said, I'm very frustrated. I'm very frustrated, but I needed her to tell me that she was very frustrated. And I say, well, you have 2 options. You can continue to allow this behavior to happen, and your team will start to disrespect you for not making the bold and brave decision. Or you can let this team member know this practice is moving forward in a different direction, but it does not include you.
Wow.
So
Love it.
3 phone calls later and 5 texts later, she went to the office, called the team member into her office, and said, this practice is moving forward without you. Oh, we wish you well. She
Wow.
texted me back. She said, I feel like I ruined her life. And I said, I really need you to think about that because whose life was ultimately being affected by this behavior? It was your patients, your other team members, you as the practice owner, not being brave enough to make that decision. So I need you to do one thing for me. I need you to get your team together, and I need you to have a very revealing conversation on how it made you feel to let this team member go and let them give you feedback. And so she called me back and she said, they asked me, why didn't you do this sooner?
You know,
They were waiting for her to make the brave decision. Brave decisions don't have to be popular, and they're almost always incredibly difficult. You wouldn't be human if it wasn't a difficult decision to let someone go. But if they affect the whole entire business negatively, the brave thing to do is to release them from that business and let them go work somewhere where they can be happier. It's clear that she wasn't happy also.
yeah, there's so much here. I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit, which you handle beautifully, because here we are on this little meeting. I was in that general. I'm not going to talk into a screen. I was that guy, and you just slipped. You just kept moving through. But so this is one way to see you. But I have seen you in a room of thousands of people, man, and I have seen you in front of that room, and I've seen you grab an entire audience, Lois, And I'm just going to say this, you have a way of bringing this tremendous humor and energy to a room, but maintain phenomenal usability content. You bring the kind of content that really people can use. Now, if there's somebody listening right now and they go, I do some speaking, I'm a speaker, and I'm going to win American Idol. I mean, you do a whole seminar on speaking, right? Give me some ideas. What are some of the keys to really, really speaking and grabbing a hold of people's attention?
You have to believe the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Guys,
You have to believe your message. If you don't believe it, I know you believe it, Gary. I see you in action all the time.
yeah.
If you don't believe the words that are coming out of your own mouth, you are not going to get across to the audience. I get excited about my topic. I would never speak on a topic I'm not familiar with. That's another secret is speak on what you know and speak what brings you joy and passion and believability.
How many podcasts do I get to do with Lois Banta? That's the question, man. I'm serious. I mean, you unload and I go, that's another podcast. That's another podcast. No, I am serious. I love what you said. You've got to believe in what you're saying. If it's a canned speech that you just open up and you're just, people know it. And how much does transparency have to do with connection with your audience?
100%. I'm incredibly transparent. In fact, I tell stories on myself first because I've made all the mistakes. I've said all the wrong things before. I've agreed to different messages before that weren't truly me. And so I'm very transparent about my message. And I'm also okay with someone disagreeing with me. In fact, I welcome it because if you don't challenge me, how are you ever going to be able to challenge yourself? And so I love it when people challenge me and try. And I always say, double dog dare you to try and ask me something I don't know the answer to. But in the event that you do, I probably know 12 people who know the answer to that.
Oh,
So at the
gosh.
very least, I can always find the answer through someone who is the expert in that area.
Well, let me tell you, Lois, you wear humility very, very, very well. Let me tell you that because I've been around you and I've seen you. One of the things that you have done, because so many of my audience, I hear this all the time, they want to do more. They're believing for more. They believe there's more to their life, especially past 60, 65, 70. I mean, they go, Gary, I know there's more, but I don't know what to do next. But you, Lois, have continued to retool. You've tried, you keep moving forward. Talk to these people who are feeling stuck in their life. How do they get out and start going after some of the things they've been dreaming about?
I have been stuck before. And I have been in situations before where I felt like either I wasn't being effective or I was being taken advantage of, or the communication, the openness, whatever, for whatever reason I felt stuck, I immediately hit the pause button. I go back, think it through, what's filling my bucket. I'm at an age where people are saying, "Oh, when are you going to retire?" It's like I don't that's not in my vocabulary. I will stop doing what I do when I no longer feel relevant or it stops being fun. Still fun and I still feel relevant.
Good luck. Good luck with that because, Lois, you will never retire as long as you continue to refire. I'm telling you.
Oh, I like that, Gary.
Go ahead. It's all yours. Retire simply means I'm going to continue to be tired. I'm going to retire. I'm going to keep being tired. Listen, for me, I went through COVID. It knocked me for 4 years, knocked me out. I mean, it knocked me for a loop. Near death experience 15 months ago. So many things keep punching me and punching me and punching me. And I thought, how do I get out of this? You do this. You do this. You put together a podcast where you get to meet and connect with some of the best friends you have, and you talk about life. And if nobody watches, it doesn't matter because it's not always about them. It's about the energy that's here. And Lois, you are one of my tremendous heroes. Okay, here we go. Talk to me about your retreats. OMG. I remember talking about these things and you had these ideas for these retreats, except you went for it, man. And now I'm looking on your website, you're doing these retreats, people are coming. Talk to me about your retreats. What do you do at these retreats with dentists? You guys, work with teeth and take x-rays and I mean, what do?
You know, the retreats came about by helping other humans get out of their own way. So what I do is I take people out of their office to a location that gets them out of their comfort zone with a desire or a design to bring back to their practice a little renewed sense of, oh my gosh, I'm totally in the right place. Or, you know what? You clarified that I need to maybe move on to another thing. As an example, the one I did in fact, just talked about this with a lady from Ireland yesterday. I took a group of 15 people to Ireland. We went to Dublin. I stayed at this resort called the Powers Court Resort. And the whole design to the whole entire thing was communication, leadership. How can they be more effective leader? Not a better leader, just a more effective leader. And so at every retreat, we do an excursion. And an excursion can be a tour of something that gets them out of their comfort zone. So we took a tour of the Bailey's farm and we met the farmer that owned the cows that made the milk that make the Baileys. And it turns out his philosophies, his bucket full moments are exactly what dentists are looking for, or employers, owners are looking for that. And he offered really great aha moments. So then we came back the next day for the second day of our retreat and we dissected what did you learn on this tour that you can now bring back to your practice with a renewed sense of satisfaction or hope or strength or whatever it was that they felt they were missing that they can go back and bring to the table. In Italy, we did a cooking class. So the next day we discussed what in that cooking class, well, you have to work as a team. You can't just build one recipe. It's a combination of many recipes that bring you back to the table. So I'm planning to go back to Ireland in 2025 to do another retreat. Probably meet Joe. His name's Joe, the farmer. Those cows came up to the fences, Gary, and batted their cow eyelids at him, just flirting with him. They thought he was the bee's knees. And we toured the barn where they milked the cows. You could have eaten off the floor. He had a lot of passion in his belly for what he did for a living and a real great pride in the excellence and quality that he brought to the table, which translated back into dentistry, which is my profession, so easily. But it's really meant for any profession. Just go experience something outside of where you work. Bring that back to the table of how that could translate to build a better business for yourself. And that's really the secret to the retreats.
Man, I tell you what, I love Ireland. I had a chance to speak there. It is amazing. So, we're talking about changing the atmosphere. And by changing the atmosphere, take that atmosphere and learn some life lessons that you can take back to your business or to your family. If this is professional, come on. When we get these life lessons, we're going to take them back to our business. No, man, your wife's been waiting for you to have some of these aha moments and to have somebody like yourself and as a facilitator. It's one thing to be a speaker and standing on a stage and lecture, but it's another thing to go on a retreat and facilitate life moments for these people. That must just fill your cup at some level.
It's very bucket filling. 100%. I'm in probably the third act of my career, and I feel like I am the happiest I've ever been. And when you're happy doing your craft, everything else is gravy. Everything else is almost inconsequential. If you feel fulfilled and happy doing what you do, it will show and it will help others become that person themselves. And that's really my goal. I was in the fourth grade, and our teacher said to us, we had to write what was going to be on our tombstone. What I wrote down, and I'll never forget it, is she made a difference. Oh, OMG. It's an OMG moment. I go back to that little fourth grader, and I wrote that back then. No idea in my brain that this would be my chosen profession eventually. If you'd have told me when I was in the fourth grade that I was going to be a speaker and a coach and be able to really influence others in becoming better versions of themselves, I would have said, no way. I was going to be an actress and a singer.
Of course, I'm the passion guy. Everything about me is passion. I live for passion. I believe that when you know who you are and you know your calling and you know your purpose, that no matter what happens to you, it can center you. And I happen to know, Lois, that you don't live on affirmation planet. Your life has not been perfect. You don't wake up every day and people are going, Allah, Lois. And you say that you're the happiest you've ever been right now. And I know what some of the audience are thinking right now. Well, great for you. Thank you that you're so stinking happy. That's great. But I've been through this and I've been through that. And every time I get up, I feel like somebody's punching me down. And I find this other people that are significant, they've all had one thing in common. They've been through a lot of pain in their life. You have been through some pain. You don't have to go into detail, but have you ever had moments where you just said, I don't know if I can do it another day?
Well, 7 years ago, next month, my husband had a stroke that almost killed him. And he was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And every day I would go to that hospital and I'd come back saying, I don't know that I could do another day of that, because it was hard to see him like that. But he was so stubborn and so goal oriented. I had to have a little hope for him. And it also made me a much more effective communicator because his personality changed as a result of that stroke. Little bits and parts of your brain's a really an amazing mechanism that were affected, built new pathways around, changed his personality. I always say I didn't have to get a divorce and I'm living with a brand new guy. So, but he's got a humor and his outlook for life, his zest for life is so contagious. But it was a hard time in our life. And still to this day, when I travel, we make a deal. If he doesn't answer the phone 3 times, I get to call everybody. And I've done it to him 3 times. And I've called everybody. So that's my comfort of knowing that I can travel. And we've had some really great, very serious conversations about fear and longevity. And, when your life hits you smack in the face, all of a sudden there's an end to that someday. And we didn't want it to be then. I've been taken advantage of in my company that when you reach a certain level in your career, like I have, Linda Miles said this to me, the bigger you are, the more people want to knock you off that little ledge, right? That little pedestal. I don't consider myself on a pedestal. I don't consider myself famous. I just love doing what I do. And no other human is ever going to take that away from me again. So did it affect my trust a little bit? Yes. Did I become wiser? Yes. Did it change me? Yes. But it didn't make me an angry, negative, bitter person. I learned things from it. And when I course correct, and this is my course correction, it absolutely is the thing that I got to where I was meant to get. I got to where I was meant to go. I got where I was supposed to be. It wasn't fun getting there sometimes. I could lose my business tomorrow and I'd still be very happy. So that to me, that's life affirming.
Wow. I walked with you. I was with you in some of that. To see you today and so much of your vitality. Life has a way of showing up and not asking our permission, and we have things happen. But you always be this person that really speaks from the heart, care more than a lot of other people that I know care. And for Sharice and I, my wife and I, you've been one of the dearest friends that we've known for many, many years. It's hard to let you go. So I'm not going to let you go right now, but I'm going to ask you, would you be willing to come back on and do another podcast with me? And I would really like to go into a podcast that talks more about personal relationships, dynamics within the personal relationships, a little bit more on how to move forward when you feel like everything is pushing you away because you just keep moving forward. You're like that Energizer bunny. And I know it hasn't been easy, but you just keep. And I want to talk about how do we retool ourselves? How do we reinvent ourselves? And you have done that incredibly well. So before I let you go, I want to ask you this. There's somebody listening right now, and I know they are, and feel like they're at the bottom of the barrel. They feel like they've tried everything and it just doesn't work. Every time they take 2 steps forward, they take 5 steps backward. They used to be really good at something, and that's not being appreciated anymore. They don't know how to restart. They don't know how to get back that momentum. They feel like they're in a sailboat. They got the sail, but they don't know where the wind's coming from. Speak to them right now, Lois. Speak to them.
Well, first of all, I've been there. I've been at the rock bottom, not by making bad life choices. Sometimes life just happens to you. It's really how you deal with it moving forward. And sometimes it's just a matter of realizing or giving yourself permission to reset. And I think that might be the secret is giving yourself permission to be able to reset the direction that you're going. And it's a brave thing to do. It's the necessary thing to do, but it's never easy. Did anybody ever tells you that switching directions or pushing the reset button is easy? It is not easy. It's not for sissies, but I will tell you the long-term benefits far outweigh the risks.
Okay, so I know you're booked out there. You got speaking, you got retreats, you got a book, you got a website. People want to get a hold of Lois Banta. How do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
The easiest way to reach out to me is just to log on to ljbseminars.com, and there's a direct connection that'll send me a direct message. They can also email me at lois.banta57@gmail.com. Those are ways to get direct in contact with me. The ljbseminars.com, if you say I want to schedule time with Lois, it'll send me a direct message, and I respond very quickly to that. I'm a good email buddy.
I love it. I love it. I did go on your website and it's phenomenal. I love the first picture with that picture with everybody there. So anyway, Lois, I don't even know how to thank you for doing this. I know you're busy. I know your schedule's full, but for you to come on and be so real, maybe there's some audience members that they went, this was amazing, but if I only had you, if Gary only had you today, this was worth it. So Lois, thank you so much. I hope you'll come back and be with us again sometime.
It would be an honor.
Okay.
I would love it.
All right. Thanks, Lois, for being with us. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my podcast. If you have any questions about today's show or would like more information on how you can bring me to your next event, please reach out and I will be sure to get back to you ASAP. Till then, have a passion-filled day.